Good afternoon, all. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. So, slightly shorter session today to have a look at Microsoft Viva Engage. So, I've just got a few slides that I'll take you through initially. So, if you're wondering what Viva Engage is, it's a 365 app. It can be implemented within Teams, or you can access it through its own web app. The whole design of it is effectively it's corporate Facebook or social media. So the idea is that it gives you a central location for employees to converse, to chat, to share information in a much more sort of social way, rather than in the very sort of structured way that you would do it through a Teams channel. So key features. So activity feeds. So we can create feeds for people's individual activities, so they can update on particular successes or things that they're working on. Something called community spaces. So this, similar to a Teams channel, but the difference with the community space is that they can be made completely open. So it's a central location for people to be able to share information. As you'll see when we go into Engage, community spaces they're sort of topics of conversation. And you can also connect with colleagues. It's also a sort of an internal networking platform as well. So the whole idea of it is that it opens up internal discussion. People can give feedback, they can give praise. As we'll see, we can create online events. The whole idea of it is that it gives you a central location for people to be able to share information, ideas, even files, without the need to go into a fully structured Teams environment, which you would probably keep for firm-wide, departmental, particular projects. As Rebecca had mentioned, one of the things that Microsoft certainly pushed this with is deployments of Copilot. So the whole idea is that it builds an online community and connection for your team. The social networking. So as I'd mentioned, so rather than a structured conversation or posts within Teams channels, Engage lets people have a more conversational view. Okay. Also, because it sits within Teams, it integrates completely seamlessly with 365. So the tools and the way that you work with it will all be very familiar to people. For anybody who's interested, there are a whole range of online resources, and we can drop this link into the chat at the end of the session. Microsoft do provide a raft of user guides. There's even implementation templates on there. But for anybody that's interested in having this after the session, just reach out to your account manager or your sales contact and ask them to enable it. There is no additional license costs with Viva Engage. It is just a case of enabling it within your tenant. So I'm going to jump over to Viva Engage and we'll have a look at the app itself. So as we'd mentioned, it lives within Teams. So I'm logged in with this demo account. I'm a guy called Mike Boss. So within my Teams, I've got my standard, my chat, Teams, calendar, etc. I've then got Viva Engage. So within my Viva Engage, I've got a home screen. So my home screen is very much like my news feed in social media. So mine is configured. It shows me posts that people have put in. So in this case, it tells me a couple of hours ago, John from Sales posted on what's called their storyline. So this is effectively John from Sales posted something onto his sort of profile, if you like, detailing something that the R&D team had done. As Mike Boss, I can like it, I can comment on it. So I've liked it and I've put a comment on here. Also brings up somebody that I interacted with. So Sarah in marketing has also posted on their storyline. Bob in HR, he's found in the Copilot best practice and ideas that he's found an online training course. So my home screen is effectively, it's like my home feed within a social media. Links up at the top. I can start a completely new discussion. I can post a question. I can put in praise. I can create a poll to get people's thoughts. You can configure this. So under home, I've got it set to say, show me new content. I can set it to say, show me all conversations, which then shows me everything that has been going on. So for example, Mike Boss created a poll. I've created another poll, Sarah for some marketing. It shows me things that I've posted on my storyline. So this, I can set it to show me anything that's new, or I can set it to show everything. Within my own personal account, within the three dots, I can delegate and give people access to post on my behalf if I wanted to, and I can bookmark pages and topics. If I wanted to create anything new, so I'm going to create new, I can create a new post, which is the same, I want a discussion, or I can create what's called a community. So communities are centralized locations for people that are using Viva Engage to be able to share. So in this demo setup, I've got a favorite community, which is the Copilot Best Practice and Ideas community. We've got one for company events, we've got one called Tech Talk, we've got learning and development, and we've got an all company. So I'm going to go into the Copilot Best Practice community. So the idea of this is, as it says in the description, it's a central location, sort of central community for people in a Copilot user group to share ideas and best practice. Tells me there's currently 5 members, and within these communities, you can also assign people to be the designated experts. So in this case, the community expert for Copilot is Mike Boss, so that people know if they've got a question, they can go to Mike Boss. He's the expert in this. Bob from HR, who is a member, so he's posted in the community that he's found a link to a training course. Mike Boss posted a tip, for example, that you just use a simple prompt to summarize the thread. Sarah from marketing's replied to it. And then there's an initial setup of, this is what this community has been set up for. Now, the thing to note with Engage communities, unlike a Microsoft Teams chat, which is effectively a Teams chat is closed to the members of that chat. These communities, the Copilot Best Practice and Ideas community has been set as a public community. So anybody within my organization can go into the communities, they can come and have a look at this. So if they were just interested in what happens in the Copilot community, they can come in and they can review what's happening in here. So the whole idea of it is this community is open to everybody. Although there are a set number of members who would post information into it, anybody in the company can come in and look at this information. If I want to start a new discussion, I can just simply create a new discussion, and I could type up my notes and post it. The about will just tell me who's an admin, who's a member of it. You can also store files within here as well. So just like a Teams channel, you can store files within your community to share them with different people. This is opened as a new, I'll just jump back across. And you can also create events. So with events, in this case, there's an event been set up within the community. It's a Copilot prompting workshop on Friday lunchtime. So if I go in and view this, I can then ask questions about it. I've been set as a producer, tells me who the presenter is. I can go and edit the event details, and I can open it up in Teams. So as well as being able to create things within your calendar, you can create sort of live events within Viva Engage. So let's just jump back across to my Copilot. The community summary on this right-hand side, as it states, it's only visible to admins. So because Mike Boss is the admin, you can see how many people it's reached, how many people have engaged with it, how many posts. So you can see the analytics of, are people actually interacting with within this community if you're an admin of it. If I scroll down a little bit further, we can see information about the community. Also gives me options that I can pin particular links or documents. So in this case, I've pinned a link to some Copilot online training. So this was taken from here. So if there are particular files, links that you think, actually, these will be really useful to everybody, you can pin them on this right-hand side to share with the community. And then down at the bottom, your community resources. So you can have a SharePoint library, a SharePoint site. So if there's a lot of files and data that you're wanting to store against this community, it can have its own SharePoint library or site. You can have a OneNote that's linked to it so that people can use that for posting links and making notes. And there's also a link to create a planner. So if I wanted to assign tasks, for example, from within my Engage community, I can also open up Planner. And there's the option, I can create a live event within this particular community. So other communities, if I go into company events, so within company events, Mike the boss has created a poll regarding the next team building event. Tells me currently there are 2 votes so far. I can go to the results. So if you wanted to create a poll, I can go into create a poll, and it's as simple as post your question, add your answers. It will be visible to everybody that can access this particular community. If you want more than 3 questions, by the way, once you get to question 3, it gives you the option of question 4, 5, and so on. Okay, let's just jump back across to, we've got a Tech Talk community. So this has been created for the technically minded people. They can come in here and chat, they can post links, etc. We've got one for learning and development. And again, within here, we can ask questions, we can praise people. So if I go back to my home, so if I wanted to create some praise, so when I go to praise, I can choose who it is that I want to praise. So in this case, I'm going to say it's John in sales, and I might just want to create some great work on the R&D work. I can then choose, do I want to drop this into a community or a storyline? So I'm going to say, I'm going to drop it onto my storyline. I can post it. So Mike Boss has just logged some praise. So within, I can post in communities, or I can post on my storyline. Now, the thing with the storyline is very similar to social media, is you can follow people within Viva Engage. So if I go into Copilot Best Practice, and for example, Bob from HR, what it will give me the option to do is, I am actually already following Bob from HR, Sarah from marketing, for example. So if I follow people, if I go into storylines, I can see them in the feed, or I can go into who I'm following, and I can see people's feeds. The idea of this is, for example, if you've got somebody who's a particular expert, it might be your head of department, it might be the CEO of your firm. You can follow them so that you see when they post things onto their storyline. So, for example, Sarah from marketing. I get the option that I can follow Sarah back. So this tells me Sarah is following me. So when I post onto my storyline, Sarah from marketing will get a notification in her feed that Mike Boss has just posted something. So I might decide, actually, I'm going to follow Sarah. And it is just a simple case of I'm now following Sarah. So whenever Sarah posts anything onto her storyline, I would see it within my feed. Okay, so that's our storylines. There is another type of storyline that's available. Unfortunately, it's not working in my demo account, and it's something called Leadership Corner. So Leadership Corner, the idea of it is leaders within your business can be set up as contributors. They can then effectively, they can post a blog that people can follow. The Leadership Corner would also give you options for setting up things like Q&A events or a live Ask Me Anything, where people can post questions to them live and they can respond with their answers. The difference with it is it's not a private conversation, it's company wide. So anybody could then dip into the Leadership Corner and see what their department head's been posting, what the head of a particular business has been posting in their feed. So it would just appear just under storylines, and you can have one or you can have many leaders, but it's just another way of being able to exchange information backwards and forwards between sort of senior management and staff within your company. Okay. Other things within Viva Engage. So if I wanted to create a new community, and this can be configured that only admins can create them, but if I want to create a new community, I'm going to choose a community. So when I create my new community, and I'll just call this, oops, I'll call it a demo community, describe what it's for. So demo. I can add members. Now, I don't have to add them at this point. I can just create it and people can find it. Or I might decide, okay, actually, I'm automatically going to add John from sales as a member of this community. Then in the settings, the default setting for these communities, as I'd mentioned, is they are public. So anyone, where it says it's in your network, it's anybody within your organization can view it and they can join it. There is the option that you can set it as private. The majority, though, you would set them as public because you want people to be able to go in and view, because we're sharing ideas, we're sharing information within our community. Communication configurations. So is it a discussion or is it a question? And do I want to allow network users to move conversations into this community? So at the moment, I don't want them to be able to pick up a conversation from one place and drop it into here. I could enable it. But the most important thing is when you create a new community, that it is visible to anybody within the organization. So I can go and create it. I've created my new demo community. I might want to drop a discussion in. So I've got a new comment. Very similar to Teams chat, you can use things like emojis and GIFs. You can even attach files. You can add images. You can also even embed video in here as well, depending on what it is that you're sharing. So I can create my post. anybody else within the organization would then be able to come and see this demo community. They can come in and have a look, and they can interact with it, and they can join it. So it would then be listed within their particular communities. Within my favorites, so I've favorited this Copilot best practice community. If I wanted to favorite a community, it is just simply a case of going to the community, and I can add it to favorites, and it adds into my favorites. I can see analytics because I'm an admin. I can copy a link to it. I can mute the feed. I can subscribe by email. So the other thing that I could do if I wanted to is I can subscribe by email to get notifications when new conversations are added within my within this particular community, and I can leave if I've decided actually I'm not particularly interested in this. I want to remove it. I can leave the community. Okay, as I'd mentioned, one of the main things that Microsoft pushed this for is for Copilot, because it gives people that central location to put in things like, here's a prompt that worked well for me, here's a prompt that really doesn't work, and I suggest that people don't use it. But rather than, as I mentioned, rather than sort of clogging up a Teams channel with posts, Engage, it just gives you a central location to give people that sort of internal social media platform to be able to share information. They can chat, they can share files, etc. But it's in a much more sort of social view rather than the more corporate. We're collaborating on documents or on particular projects within Teams. Okay, there's not a lot else to Viva Engage. As I say, there are no costs for it. So if you are interested in trialing it, just let your account manager or your sales contact know. We can enable it for you. You can trial it out, but you don't need any additional license. It's inbuilt within your 365 licensing. Okay. Slightly shorter than expected, but it's a very sort of quick and easy one to cover off.